Cabrini is a brand new film that came out of Angel Studios on International Women's Day, which was a perfect time to release the film because it definitely celebrates women who are powerful and fighting against the odds of basically an entire society that is out to get them. It ultimately follows the true biographical story of Mother Francis Xavier Cabrini, who saw poverty levels all across the world and simply wanted to make the world a little bit of a better place. Essentially by gathering the help of other sisters, some priests in the area, the Pope himself, and building orphanages so that these kids in these poverty-stricken areas have somewhere to live. And she starts out in New York City, in the slums, basically in the spots that are so dark and so terrible, nobody knows how bad it is because the police themselves won't even go there. So she heads that way and she starts building a better world and life for these kids that are otherwise treated worse than rats, all the while dealing with her own struggles, constantly being told that she only has another year or two to live, but pushing through because she's driven and she's passionate about completing this mission. Because if she doesn't, then that would obviously, suck. But she's definitely getting a lot of pushback from society in general because she's in America, and at this time period, which was like the late 1800s, early 1900s, there was a lot of anti-Italian racism as well as sexism, all the while she's in the middle of the slums doing all of this where she could potentially die, and yet she is the source of motivation and inspiration for practically everybody around her. So for the last year, Angel Studios has kind of surprised me in what they are doing, especially with the mission that they strive to accomplish with every single film, and that's basically sending a positive message and allowing other people to pay it forward and get other people who can't necessarily afford a ticket of their own a ticket. Now, they came into popularity more in the limelight with the film Sound of Freedom. I saw that a little ways ago. That was a pretty interesting one. And there's also a film that I saw called The Shift, and I covered that as well. The thing about it is they are a Christian studio, but their movies don't really act like traditional Christian films. And that's a good thing because Christian media often has a lot of problems grasping audiences' attentions because they usually have a really bad balance on things. I have the belief that you want to be as balanced as humanly possible in a Christian film specifically when it comes down to plot, when it comes down to the message that it's trying to convey, and as well as the Bible stuff, right? You gotta have the Bible stories in there, you gotta have a little bit of prayer in there, you need something that essentially makes it Christian. The problem with most Christian movies is that the balance is completely askew, and usually the Bible part of that balance is over the top, really in your face, so the plot and the message kind of go out the window. And you're saying, there's messages in a Christian film, but you don't really notice it when the story itself is just overly preachy. Angel Studios, on the other hand, has been getting better and better with this. With Sound of Freedom, you'll notice one main thing. There's more message in that film than anything else, There's not a ton of plot in that film because it wants to convey more of a message than anything else. There's a little bit of Bible stuff, but it felt more cinematic. It felt more like an actual movie than anything I'd seen really from Christian cinema ever, other than Passion of the Christ. The Shift was kind of the other way around, where it was more plot and Bible stuff than it was message. So that one felt the most like a typical Christian film because it had more Bible stuff in it than anything else, but it was also a science fiction multiverse story, so they had a lot of plot in there. So it still felt unique and original. I'll be honest though, Cabrini is the first time I've seen Angel Studios do this, and they balanced everything out perfectly. From the plot to the message of the story and to the Bible stuff, it all equals out brilliantly. There's not too much or too little of any of these things. It's the first time I've seen them do that, and it's the first time I've really seen any Christian movie, period, do that, other than Passion of the Christ. So I consider this to be a very, very watchable, entertaining, important, and inspiring film at the end of the day. The performances were top-notch. The cinematography was impressive. The production design was incredible. You really did believe that these people were doing all these things in the late 1800s and early 1900s. The costume design, the hair, the makeup, everything in the movie is actually really good. It's very strong. I would say if there was any kind of weakness in the film, it might be somewhere along the lines of the second act, which sometimes can drag out a little bit. This film is 2.5 hours long or just under it, which feels a little bit dragged out maybe. So I would say the film, while it needed to be longer than an hour and a half, it didn't need 2 hours and 20 minutes. I would say more of the lines, 2 hours flat would be perfect for the film. So even though Sound of Freedom made Angel Studios as popular as it is, and as important as that film is in general, I would have to say Cabrini is Angel Studios' best film in general. But it is directed by the same guy who did Sound of Freedom, so there is that. I am definitely interested in seeing what else Angel Studios has to offer us in the future. I definitely like the direction that they've been heading. I like the stories that they have to convey. I would actually say their true story biographical films are better than their fiction ones. But obviously, that could change. I've only really seen 3 of their movies. So yeah, Cabrini is a very good, strong film in terms of everything done behind the scenes. It's an engaging story, engaging performances all around. I'd have to rate this an A. Maybe not so much A+, as I don't think it's a perfect film, but A, absolutely, because it does essentially everything that it wanted to do right. It succeeded. But what about you guys? Have you seen Cabrini? If so, leave your thoughts about it in the comment section down below. As for YouTube, you guys know what to do. Hit the like, subscribe button, and bell to be notified when I come out with my next review. And until then, peace!